So space, the final frontier. This is the voyage of today's mission. Today's episode is a really special one. Why? Because of its mission to seek out new business opportunities, very strange ones, for space and for planet Earth, to seek out new funding sectors and innovative selling points, to boldly go where no brand has gone before. I'm joined today by Adrian Șuhanea, who works at the educational department at ESA. Adrian is from my hometown, but now he lives in the Netherlands, working for the European Space Agency. Adrian, welcome.
Nice, very nice to see you this afternoon.
Thanks for joining this conversation. I wanted to ask you so many things, and we had a conversation before, and I asked you so many things, but I want the whole world to know what kind of great opportunities are out there. The space industry is presenting for all kinds of business sectors, and yes, this is the main subject that we will be covering today. So tell us a bit about yourself.
What can I tell you about myself? I studied computers engineering in Oradea, in our hometown, and I had my own web development company. That's where actually I got a lot of professional experience that I'm using it now, and I did different kind of projects, like also NGO involvement and activists, and trying to develop communities. And later on, I arrived here in the Netherlands when I started to join the European Space Agency, working for the education department, where it was a very nice combination between my professional skills, computers, web development, and passion about STEM, passion about space. But also the part of education, where I was involved in a lot of education projects in Romania and on European level. So I think that was the best combination I could get also as a job opportunity. So here I am after 5 years.
And what is it that you do in the educational department?
I'm helping with the outreach for all the education programs that we have. Where we are now having a lot of sharing platforms that are dedicated for school projects, for example, that a lot of teachers can use them to join our projects and to actually get the education resources that we are developing for them and share their ideas and the projects that are done by the students, and everything that is needed to support all the different programs that we do. I'm here together with the team.
Do you address also kids from kindergarten to university level? So what is
Yes.
the age range?
Yes, the age range starts from 3, where for that we developed actually a character, which is here with me today. He's Paxi.
Okay, what is it?
So Paxi is actually a space adventurer that he speaks in all the European languages. He has his own YouTube channel where you can see adventures with Paxi doing very different stuff and explaining it in a very simple language for any kids to understand. It's much more easy how space is working, how physics is working, but in a very nice way and adventurous. So he's Paxi, and we are developing a lot of things, trying to translate sometimes complicated science to very simple words, to make sure that it's accessible to any kid, and to make sure that we put there the right spark for the kids to want to discover more, and to take over when they will be adults, to take over this part of research and going beyond and exploring and developing and finding new and new ways of developing society.
I will leave the link where people can access the YouTube series with Boxy below. So check it; it's right here. Basically, what you're doing, you are sparking interest in kids for the space and all the industry around it. Everything that it's connected to the space industry, because I've researched the subject and it's a whole new universe. I mean, there are so many industries and sectors aligned to space, and where space can be a real help and can really make a difference, the space technologies. And basically what you're doing is you are preparing the next generations for this workforce. And I read on your website that there will be challenges that are yet unknown, jobs that are yet not invented, for challenges and problems that are not yet available to us.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a lot to say that we are preparing the kids. Definitely the parents are doing much more than us, and the teachers that are working day by day with us. We're just trying actually to give them extra resources. We're trying to give them a little bit of support to do it better. And it's not just for the space sector itself. It's actually anything that is connected to exact science to and using, of course, the space team, which is very generous, and it's very something that makes you dream and makes you get some passion about. And from that point of view, we're trying to make science a little bit more appealing and more using fun, because it's important to make sure that also the next generation is seeing science as not something very boring, not something extremely complicated, but something that actually is appealing and something that they can transform it in a passion. And once you are working in a sector that is part of your passion, let's say that much more you enjoy than just feeling you go 8 hours a day to a workplace and that's it.
That's true. That's true. So, can you explain us the space industry and everything related? Because you have the astronauts, you have the scientists, you have the researchers, but there are so many sectors that are related to space that it's absolutely incredible. Can you describe it in short?
Yeah, I would even say that the space industry itself is just a piece of the puzzle, because much more broader term to use is space sector, because space sector incorporates also the industry, which is actually creating all the assets, everything that's needed for the space. But space sector includes also the space agencies, like International Space Agency, like it's the European Space Agency, which is actually it has more than 22 member states and associate states. But besides that, or of course, very famous NASA or any other national space agency, which they are working together with industry sector, and they are actually trying to develop it, to support it, to make sure that there is an industry there. And they are doing, but they're not doing just that. They are trying to do also other stuff, like also this educational department that, for example, is trying to support schools from all over Europe and from all over the world with the programs that we are doing to promote exact science, which is a little bit out of a general industry mode, but for a space agency that is using public budget, it actually makes sense to make sure that the exact science are trying to be used and as most appealing as possible. And besides that, also the space agency are making sure that some things that are hard to translate in business or in industry, like, okay, let's say that satellites are now they become a business sector. We have a lot of private companies that are running their own private satellites that are used for a very big diversity of things. But besides that, we have the research, like the deep science things, which is very hard to translate it. I mean, business means you have an input and you should have an output sooner or later in money, but some things are very hard to be translated like that. So for that, the space agencies are making sure that these kind of deep research is still happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they are using public money for that. For sure, long term, they are coming back because the society is developing using that deep science, but it's very hard to tell some of the things that are developed when or how they will be used. But it's extremely important to make sure that we are going further, that this kind of science and this kind of research is still happening. Mm-hmm. And we are working a lot with the universities, which are interconnected together with us and other research facilities and research projects, making sure that these are going on and are working together.
Mm-hmm. What about the space industry? What can we find there from satellites, telecommunication, urban solutions for sustainability, smart cities? What else?
Well, I think from a point of view, this is one of the best moments to talk about, because it's actually it's a moment. It's a very good moment when things are changing, and they are changing on an exponential speed. Mm-hmm. If 50 years ago, when people for the first time landed on the moon, it was a lot of enthusiasm all over the world, and a lot of predictions, like in 10 years, we're going to be on Mars, we're going to have, by the end of the century, we're going to have already a moon base, Mars base, and this kind of thing. And looking back, we see that didn't happen, actually. And maybe it would be interesting to see a little bit why that didn't happen yet. Why don't we have a base on the moon? Why we just had a few flights to the moon and that's it, and after that nothing happened? To understand why it happened, and to understand what happened with this gap, and to understand what's the potential to change now.
Mm-hmm. But in the same time, the technology got exponential. I mean, the space is unbelievable, and the technology used in space is much more advanced than what is on the market.
Yes, it is, definitely. But and on the other hand, maybe sometimes some of the technologies that we are using now, like on the daily life, they exist because of the space sector. Mm-hmm. Because, for example, for some space missions, they needed to develop special computers in special that can work in special conditions. But after that, it's always a try to see how can we reuse all this technology for life on Earth, because on the end, this is where we live, and this is where we try to make life better for every citizen. So there is a way to interconnect them. But coming back a little bit to see where we are now and where we are heading, it's actually looking a little bit how we arrived to the moon, and the fact that actually landing on the moon, it was much more it had a big political driver. Actually, it was a technology technology demonstration because of the Cold War, because between the two superpowers, mm-hmm. Where it was a challenge to see who gets there, who has the better technology, and who's able to support that. So for 10 years, the NASA budget was 5% of the GDP of the US, mm-hmm. which is a huge percentage compared to what is now, which is 10 times less. And it happened, which was an amazing achievement, but it wasn't done in a sustainable way, because you cannot use for very long time public money to do things that is very hard to translate in the public life. So Once that happens, and once the short-term goal was achieved, after that, the public money, they weren't there anymore to be able to sustain that kind of development. So then the things didn't went up to continue. They just slowed down from the development point of view. But now we are in a totally different situation, because the main driver now to develop space is not coming just from the space agencies that are using public money, but it's coming from a lot of different other companies and from entrepreneurs that now they have access to technologies, or they are developing by themselves the technologies to be there. So now there is the business incentive actually, which didn't exist 50 years ago. Because of course of the whole technological development from all over the world, now access to technology and access to capacity to develop things is totally different than it was 50 years ago. But looks like as society we needed at least 50 years to get here and to get to this moment. I think we are in a sense, like in history, we had the gold rush where people were starting to move to new places because they discovered there are resources there and something like that. It's quite visible and known that there are a lot of economical incentives that we can find if we develop a good space industry. But until now, it wasn't reachable. Now things are getting more and more visible that are not so further away to be reached. So now there are a lot of interest to make sure that things are developed. And who's going to be there? The first, it's going to be maybe the winners. So.
I like it very much that it's now open for proposals, for projects, and that the space agency supports with know-how, with guidance, with a part of the funds. So I like it that they stimulate innovation, because I think space needs a lot of innovation in this moment to obtain new technologies and new applications for space and for Earth as well. Because I see two directions on the website of ESA. So I see the direction where they call for projects and applications for the space industry, for everything that happens in space, and how can the space technology that already is available can be used for businesses on Earth. So there's definitely a big opening.
Yeah, definitely. And actually one of the shifting in the way how space agencies are working is that if until 10 years ago, a lot of projects were like, okay, we would like, maybe the relation between the space agencies and the industry was like, we would like to build a new satellite, putting the requirements there and doing the checkups and putting the budget there. Now the idea is to buy services. So the idea is not to buy a rocket, but to buy a flight. And in this way, we are trying actually to make sure that we are encouraging the industry to develop the infrastructure, because once they have the infrastructure to service, to offer a service for a space agency, definitely they can go up there on the market and offer the same service for different other companies. Which is a way how we try to make sure that it's a sustainable way to develop business in this sector. So then the businesses that are developed are not totally dependent on public money. Of course, they are supported on the beginning. They are supported to make sure that they reach a stable development and that can be already used and fulfill services. But once they are there, to be able to actually offer them and be competitive on a market. So this is the new way of thinking, and which started a while ago, and now we are also starting to see some results out of it.
I see here the featured opportunities for business on ESA website. It's about urban green, resilient utilities, aviation safety, water scarcity, space for tourism, social and environmentally friendly mobility, even financial services, health, radio frequency analytics, which was a truly a fascinating discovery, for trains, for applications, for technology, for satellite communication, and so on. There are so many areas where there's a big need for innovation and research and development. And yeah, you can apply, you can check the link below. Tell us about the kids, how open they are, how curious they are, how fascinated they are when discovering the pieces of material on the educational website.
Well, we have quite a good feedback about it. We have a lot of kids trying to actually be friends with Paxi. They're also writing him on social media, sometimes directly in messages. And he's also present in a lot of classrooms. And from that point of view, we actually like, because we are seeing also from the traffic from the website, because the ESA Kids has at least 50% of the ESA main website traffic, which is a very good sign that actually this is an attractive subject, an attractive topic for the kids and for the young generation. And we are very happy to see that actually all the efforts that we are putting in this, it's actually used and becomes something nice for the kids and for the students.
Mm-hmm. I acknowledge that I also watched some of the videos for kids. I wanted to see how you explain it to the young ones, but it's also a very useful tool for me because very complex notions are explained in very simple language. Maybe a part of your traffic is driven by people like me, by adults who want to understand space in a simple language.
We actually got this kind of feedback quite a lot, and actually looking to what happened in the last year, because the whole world had to adapt to the new change and challenge in society. We had a lot of parents that actually had to fulfill sometimes the place of the teacher, being there with the kids. That's why we either released some special editions, which was like school project at home edition, to try to make sure. And we saw that a part of traffic is coming from there, but we are very happy that this is happening, and actually the knowledge is shared and the things are becoming much more accessible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a universe. This space thing for kids and for business owners as well, for innovators, for students, for everybody interested in bringing something new and exciting to space exploration and Earth as well, because there's a lot of call to action for developing a more sustainable economy, future tourism, of financial. So it's a very wide range of applications. And I think whoever goes on your website can start with the educational part to understand the sector. First of all, the sector. How does it work? It's not just about the space shuttles. It's not just about the mission centers. It's a whole area that it's constantly developing and is encouraged by such associations and agencies. Where can businesses go and learn more about the opportunities, and how can the agency supports them?
Well, from that point of view, we have in a lot of member states of ESA, we have business incubators, which are local offices actually trying to adapt to the local needs and to the local potential, because some countries maybe they are much more oriented in some directions, or they have a much better developed industry, special industry, so they are trying to support, to put in value what they have there. That's why the business incubators are actually trying to be in every country, which they chose to have one, where the business incubators actually help startup ideas, help with a lot of consultancy about it, how to actually take sometimes a business that exists out of the space sector, but can maybe incorporate space technology and make it way much better, which is an angle that sometimes it's not viewed, but we are trying to promote that, and we are trying to make people to understand that actually space industry, on the end, you can almost connect any industry with the space sector. So it's trying to be, because even agriculture, I mean, when you think about agriculture, you don't connect agriculture with the space sector, no? Because you just think you go on the field, you plant something, you have the crops, and that's it. But things can be much more optimized. We have startups, we have companies now that are taking the public data or some private data from satellites, which are actually analyzing them. So the added value, what they do, that is developing artificial intelligence to evaluate, to interpret the data way much better, and selling these analyses to the agriculture sector, where using that data, they can decide way much better what part of the field needs to be actually maybe optimized, what's the humidity level from the soil, and a lot of factors that actually can optimize and can make all the businesses to use less resources, to be much more efficient, and to be much more productive and be able to serve society much better. And from that point of view, there are a lot of examples out there that actually sometimes you don't need a lot of resources to start a business in the which is actually using space sector to interconnect with the rest of the industry. If we even think like about medicine and about all the human space flights that we are developing, we also need doctors to be able actually to do all the research, because what's happening, because every astronaut that is out there, because it's so valuable, the time that it's spent on orbit, we are also trying to make sure that every piece of data that we have and we gather, it's interpreted and it's analyzed to improve the capacity of people also to travel to space, but also to develop new medicine, which means like we are speaking about a lot of doctors involved in a lot of different research projects about it, which maybe doesn't come on the first thing. Or if you are a geologist, for example, and you are studying the way how Earth is created and all the layers, but that's valid on any other body. That's valid also on the moon. That's valid on the Mars. So we actually need expertise to be able to join a lot of the projects. And a lot of the data that we are trying to gather is actually becoming more and more accessible. and you can start taking your talents and your knowledge, your capacity to interpret the data, and do look a little bit in this direction, what's available there or what's the need, and start putting your added value on it.
I've seen an example here in the sector of health crisis like COVID, the way that space technologies helped to better evaluate and to manage the crisis with telehome care support, with medical operations, logistics within health units, the population overall health and well-being, the safety, the security. So all of these technologies that helped to get a clear bird's eye view upon the situation. And of course, it was an unfortunate event, but a great exercise for future pandemics.
Yeah, definitely. And also on the sustainable part, we are speaking about deforestation. We're speaking about like fires and this kind of thing, which is much more, let's say, not easy, but now are much more accessible using the space technology, because we are starting to have more and more satellite constellations that we can get the data much more often and much more closer to the real time to see what's happening there, and actually to be able to handle it. That's why it's not just the businesses, but also the public sector can benefit a lot out of it, of course, if there is real request about it, or there are companies that they can offer their expertise on how to interpret that data to manage better their own natural resources from a lot of points of view. And it's a lot of, and I think using all these technologies that we are having now, definitely we can make life way much better and sustainable here on Earth, which by far is the best planet we will have.
Yeah. Let's not think about planet B.
There is no planet B in our lifetime. So.
Yeah. So space technologies and applications can be basically used for life on Earth in almost all areas of economy and society. I work in marketing, so I'm very passionate about everything that's coming new, and I've learned about the applications of VR, AR, and big data and IoT in marketing. It's only now timidly beginning to show up. How can we use the space applications in marketing? Can you give us some examples?
Well, I'm not very sure about. I mean, in marketing, in the sense, like I think space is used as a theme for like, if you brand yourself with and we already saw a few examples of companies that are standing there that are starting to use space as a, if I'm reaching there, I show that I'm actually a very advanced company. These kind of things. Maybe that can be one of the potentials. On the other hand, I think you recently saw, which actually happened this year, some examples of space tourists.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna go a little bit further, because if we are starting to have private tourists, which now is very eccentric, it's very limited and this kind of thing, but in a few years, there are actually companies thinking about trying to offer more facilities there, maybe a private space station and this kind of thing. And there are ideas or talks about what would a reality show look with, which is actually filmed, or actually there is the film industry that it's now starting to seriously think about using space as a place to be able to film and to get. So things are getting in there, and I think once the Pandora box will be open, it's going to be very hard to be closed, and we are getting there.
Yeah.
But I remember one of the examples of an idea of a business from university students, nothing else. That, for example, they were building CubeSats, and CubeSats are small satellites, which are in the shape of a cube, of course, that has the dimension of just 10 per 10 per 10 centimeters. And so actually we are using CubeSats much more as an educational, with an educational potential, because they are small enough and we can actually involve students to develop all the technology inside, from the software to all the planning of the satellite itself, to test the microsatellites there, and after that we release it to space, and we even give them the control to control from a ground station their own satellite, which I think it's an amazing thing that a lot of students didn't have when we were students some years before. And one of the ideas, because we also try to encourage the students, not just on the scientific part, but also on the marketing part of it. How do they promote it? How do they sell, or what's the business use of their ideas? And one of the ideas, it was just for the small CubeSat to like extend a small piece like a selfie stick, where they would actually have a small LCD to project pictures. And if you are a client and you want to buy a selfie with you in space, to be able to do it using their own small micro satellite. I mean, it's just a small example what a young mind would think about, that it's possible. And I think it's just the beginning of what it can be in the future.
I agree. I'm so curious. What about the applications of Internet of Things, the big data? It's getting quite serious, you know. There's more and more data that can be used. The internet is becoming easier to use. Much more content can be created, streamed. So how can space support that?
Well, for example, we are working a lot with even in ESA, in European Space Agency. We even changed the human space flight department in human and robotic space flight, because we are aware that it's totally outdated to try to work just with astronauts without making sure that they are supported by robots in a lot of different ways. Like, even if we are speaking about software helping them to recognize a lot of things, or helping them to actually even navigate on the International Space Station, where you have so many items and so many projects that you need to be involved, that it's almost impossible for you as a human to remember everything. But to actually physical robots that can help them and can do a lot of tasks that for a human it's way much more dangerous. And if we are there and we can actually improve the technology to actually replace the human with a robot in the dangerous situation, why not do that? So we are investing a lot in robotic development, and definitely everything that is developed in the space projects by the companies that are working, after that they can be incorporated. Another example, it can be, for example, in the 3D printing industry. One of the things that we are working on is to now the return to the moon doesn't want to be just going there, plant a flag, and that's it. We want to make sure that it's done in a sustainable way. And in a sustainable way, it's a way to actually try to use as much as many materials that we find them in situ there. So instead of trying to move a lot of big buildings from here, there, or bricks in a sense to try to build there a moon base, we are now developing the technology to 3D print the moon base or the shelter of the moon base using the regolith, the dust from the moon, actually. So in that way, it's much more sustainable to take a few 3D printers there, which are a little bit more than a simple 3D printers, because they are kind of a combination between a robot and a 3D printer, that it has the capacity to transform the regolith in actually a real shelter, where inside we put all the technology that we bring. So that once, which we already have the test done, and a part of the technology is already proven. We are continuing to improve it, which I think all that technology to be used not just on moon to print a moon base, but we can start using it on Earth to build maybe much more sustainable houses, and maybe much more affordable, because houses and housing, I think it was always a challenge for every society, no matter where it is. So that's another example that definitely technology that is developed for space projects can be used also on Earth.
And I think it's my opinion. The space agencies also want to 3D print space crafts in space, or different parts if something goes wrong.
Well, we already have some 3D printers on ISS, so we don't have just a collection with all the tools for every screw there, but some of the things are already 3D printed, which also to 3D printing in microgravity is something different than printing on Earth. But we are learning and we are developing all this technology, because even for long term to go to a space mission on Mars, if Moon is just a few days away, Mars we are speaking about 6 months to get there, 6 months to get back, 2 years of alignment. We are speaking about way much more longer missions. So from that point of view, definitely we need to be much more sustainable and to make sure that some of the things they can be just replicated there, because it's much more accessible to send a file with new instructions on how to print a specific object, than send the object there.
Yeah. So where are we heading?
Well, I think we are heading to the real space boom, which didn't happen 50 years ago, but it's happening now, at least here around, not just around me, but around a lot of space involved people. It's becoming more and more visible.
It's a renaissance. It's a renaissance.
It is in a sense. Maybe on the short term scale, it looks not so fast as we would like to see it. But on the other hand, it's on the bigger scale, things are happening quite fast, and the speed is exponential. If this year there were a few space tourists, next year maybe there will be double, and this kind of thing. So it's not going to be just adding 10%, which is in the normal industry, or 2%, which is in normal industry. The numbers here are totally different.
Nice. What's the future that we're aiming for in space exploration?
Well,
like reachable future, like our lifetime future.
Our lifetime future. Okay, so one of the actually, for the last 25 years, we had a ISS on the Earth or low Earth orbit, where actually we learned a lot about it, how it's to live on microgravity, and how can we actually reach space more and more easy, and what does it mean not just to have a few days missions, but 6 months or 1 year. That was the lesson of the last years, but now we are heading towards back to the moon, which maybe from some point of view for some people doesn't look like very appealing, but it's definitely the most logic step to do it before building the base on Mars, because yes, definitely that's one of the medium-term goals to make sure that the people are getting to Mars. We already have a few rovers there, but to make sure that we can have long-term missions like it's Mars and sustainable and safe enough, we need to learn a little bit better how to build them. And for example, the moon, it's very hard to say that we will reach the level on how science fiction movies were predicting, or in the 50 years ago, or we're going to have cities on moon and this kind of thing. But moon is seen like an intermediate base, like a scientific base.
Ad Astra?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, I think.
Like that, right?
Yeah. It's once a scientific base where we can learn how to actually have a sustainable base somewhere remote. But on the other hand, moon is seen also as, in a sense, the gas station of of deep space missions, because now we know there is ice on the moon, and there are a lot of debates and projects to see how we can use the ice from the moon actually to use it to power the future missions towards different other destinations like Mars in principle. So the, let's say, already foreseen missions are is the Artemis mission, which ESA is part of it, and we actually contributed with the life support system for the spacecraft to go to the moon. And from that point of view, reaching the moon, creating another base around the moon that will orbit. The moon actually need yet establish when we will get there, because there is no specific budget for it like it is already with the Artemis program and getting back to the moon.
So the moon and then the Mars. Yes,
and actually Mars, we even the active missions that are on Mars now are actually trying to answer a very deep question. If we can scientifically prove that there is life, or there was life out there, out of Earth, because until now scientifically we didn't prove that it was that there is life anywhere else than on Earth, and that's why actually the rovers that the rover that we are seeing now on Mars, it's actually now collecting some samples, and it's putting them in some special capsules. And there are 2 other missions that would involve actually to collect all the samples together to send them on Mars orbit and from there another mission to bring them from Mars orbit to Earth to be able to analyze the samples from Mars on Earth labs, where definitely the capacity of a lab on Earth is much more powerful than anything we can put in a small rover. And because if we find the answer and if we can prove it, I think some of the way to see space and to see the universe can alter and can go in a different direction.
So to give an answer to the question, is there life on other planets like Mars? And if it is there a possibility that it arrived from Earth?
Well, I think that's a different question. It's very hard to find an answer now. There is let's say that we're not reaching for life now on Mars, because we know that even if we find bacterial life, there is a very small chance to find it, right? But we are targeting at least for the signs of life, because there are a lot of signs that Mars had oceans. Mars had, let's say, the conditions to create life and to have life developed there. So we are trying to search at least for proofs that life was on Mars, even if now it's not out there. But there are also other candidates in the solar system that actually can prove in the system, can prove in the future that maybe there is life now somewhere on the solar system.
Cool. Why do you think we explore space?
Why? Because I think that's one of the human which makes us special as a species, to try to develop more, to try to find answers to very hard questions. That's why we actually managed to do a lot of things good, some things a little bit more challenging, but we are learning from our own mistakes. Curiosity, I think it's one of the things that should keep the candle alive, and should make us maybe once we accumulate more and more knowledge and technology on the end, should make us also more responsible on how do we use it, to make sure that we are using in the good sense, and to make sure that everything that we use, all the next generations are capable to have them, and we are not just closing some things because we overexploit some things. So I think curiosity is the main driver which makes us very special as a human species.
What's your favorite space movie?
Space movie. Ooh, that wasn't the question in the list.
It was a surprise question, yeah.
I would go to a book if it's better than a movie.
A book.
Like,
okay.
Yeah, so Asimov, for example, for me was one of the best, because in the childhood I started to read like from Foundation and all of his books, which are amazing and actually helped me a lot to develop my creativity and my way of thinking.
Which one is your favorite?
From Asimov?
Yeah.
The Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a trilogy. I think it has 7 books or something like that. And maybe the first thing that now wouldn't be considered scientific, but 100 years ago it was considered science fiction, would be Jules Verne.
Oh yeah.
We read it as kids, and a lot of things that are described there, like radio transmission with a concert on a ship, looks like now it's so so accessible, but back then it was just imagination of the author, and now we are living those times. So definitely, from a lot of points of view, we are living in a scientific movie compared to not very many generations ago.
I agree. Even from 10 years ago, I mean, the pace of the technology is unbelievable.
It is, and let's hope that we keep it in the good direction and we use it in the good sense. Yeah, even this kind of calls on or having a society being able to work from home for so much time and still being connected. I think it was a very good example on how can we use technology to improve our life and keep us connected, even if we physically we had to.
Yeah. Adrian, thank you very much for.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Answering all my questions, even my surprise questions. It was a great talk. I hope to see you more in educational projects, even in Romania. And for the kids all over the world to open their appetite and curiosity for space exploration, and also for business entrepreneurs to check out all the amazing opportunities for growth, for innovation, for business development that space provides. Thank you, and lots of good luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation.